and welcome to Mums at the Table. I hope you're having a great week wherever you are. Now is the time to pull up a cuppa, just take a chill pill and relax for some great conversation. I'm Mary Ellen, and joining me today is three ladies in red, except for maybe pink, but still, it's pretty cool. Welcome, Melody.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
That's good. Fiona.
Hi, Mary Ellen.
And Julie.
Hi.
Hello. This week on Mums at the Table, we're talking bake sale fundraisers, junk food and diabetes. We're asking the ladies how involved they are with their school's fundraising activities and how closely they monitor their children's junk food consumption. We've also got endocrinologist Dr. Katherine Benson joining us in the studio to give us the most up-to-date information about increasing diabetes rates in children. And of course, Gia and Olive will be making some healthy chocolate nut butter, a version that I'm sure poses no risk of diabetes. But to kick off today's discussion, Belinda Moore recently wrote an article for ABC News where she explained how her daughter's class was hoping to raise $4,500, a lot of money, for classroom supplies. Instead of baking cookies or selling chocolate frogs, the parents unanimously decided to give $90 each. The school got their money and the parents escaped the burden of volunteering. Ladies, is this a good idea? What do you think? Like, should we be more involved in our school, like in our children's schools, or do we just give the money and be done with it?
I think we're so time poor. I think if we can donate. Why should we have to take our time, take time off work to volunteer and it even costs some more money sometimes when you have to bake and then go take and sell and then you don't even make that much money back.
Yeah. I love being a volunteer mum. I didn't work full-time, I only worked part-time, so I didn't have the money. Money was, more difficult for me than time. So I really enjoyed being a volunteer mum, but I used it as an opportunity to make school community. And my friends now are the friends that I made when my kids are in primary school.
Wow.
And they grew up together and we still holiday together. We still go and have coffee together. They've become my lifelong friends. So for me, it was more than just a volunteering thing, but I also wanted to get to know my kids' teachers on a personal level. But I know it doesn't work for everyone. If I was working full time, it probably would have been different.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking my mum was a working mum, so she didn't have time to come to school and do any volunteering things. So if we could pay for it, we would, and I think I'll probably do the same. And I don't have a problem with, just giving the money, give the money. In fact, our church does some charity work and we're supposed to go and knock on people's doors. I actually just give the money, donate the money, and over time, and that way it's easier.
Well, time is money, right? And if you're knocking on doors for 2 weeks to get the amount of money it would take you, it's
whatever the goal is,
yeah.
I just say, what's my contribution? Here you go, done, sorted. I don't have to do anything else about that.
But yet, I'm just thinking, what is that teaching our children, though? Is that money can solve everything? The whole thing, to back it up, this whole parents volunteering in school thing is a very foreign concept to me. I grew up in Singapore schools. Parents don't volunteer in schools. Like, it's not a participation thing. But what Julie has just said sounds really nice, that you get this community. But yeah, at the same time, I'm just thinking that I'm with Fiona. Like, I was like, if I can pay for it and get out of it, that's fine. But yeah, I do wonder, are we teaching children that, money solves every problem?
That's a good point. I don't know. I guess the thing, we've talked about this before, and the value of money is becoming so confusing to kids already with credit cards and things like that. Maybe it is something that we should be intentionally doing to teach our kids the value.
But I think we should also be in schools, I guess, explaining to parents, which is what she mentions in the article, exactly what you're contributing to, whatever they're saving for. I think if we put that message to parents, you'll get more people who maybe want to volunteer because, they think, oh, it's a good way of meeting other mums. And I think the schools need to communicate that to the parents.
And you don't want unwilling volunteers, because an unwilling volunteer is really no volunteer at all. They're not going to be helpful. They're not going to be, a negative attitude is probably not going to help. But I like the idea of them being maybe giving parents the option of one or the other, rather than forcing one idea on them.
And I think it's the efficiency, what is the more efficient way? Is volunteering, getting volunteers more efficient, or getting the actual money from the parents more efficient?
But maybe efficiency isn't really the purpose of what we're doing. I don't know.
That's true.
Like if you're trying to build community spirit or...
Well, exactly. But I guess on the flip side of the equation, you have often, when it's like volunteer, opt-in, opt-out, you have certain parents that do everything all the time. Like my dad, he's been on the PNC for like over 30 years collectively with all these kids that he's had. And it's like, so yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting discussion. But if you want to be more involved in your kids' school, perhaps the trick is to find a cause you're actually passionate about, like charity fundraisers, or actually even Clean Up Australia Day, which is coming up very soon. But if you're super impatient like me and baking cupcakes causes the deep-set frustration and anger to bubble up inside, then you're not alone. According to The Guardian, righteous motherly anger, or mama bear rage, is the only form of anger acceptable in women. Okay, Fiona, I want to go with you first because you've got 4 under 4. I can imagine the mama bear rage probably happens a little bit more often than those with
Probably all day, every day. No, not really. I think it comes out at certain times, but I don't think that's an excuse for being angry. I think it doesn't matter whether you have children or not. Anger is a human emotion, and whether we're, male or female, it happens to everyone. Yeah. So with this article saying it's more acceptable when it's mama bear, I tend to disagree.
Really?
I think even myself as a woman of a different ethnicity, I not only get accused of, oh my goodness, call the cops, she's violent, or and I probably would be, I probably would get violent. But the fact is, it's a different take when it comes to me and my anger, as opposed to some of my white friends. When they are angry, it's more acceptable. When I'm angry, it's like, call the cops. This girl's going to throw down, or whatever the case is. So I think it's not just about being a mama bear. It's about how people view us as human beings.
I really don't like the concept of mama bear at all. Melissa calls me a mama bear. I don't know why. I must ask about that.
How old is your daughter?
That one's 23. But I think you don't change who you are as a person just because you become a mother. You're still the same person. You may be really protective of your children, and maybe if you're, being protective of your children, you're angry, but, being generally angry through life, I don't think you change just because you've become a mother.
But they're saying it's more acceptable.
They're saying it's more acceptable. And I can see where they're coming from, because if I see a woman freaking out about something like
because
in a workplace, like in a workplace, it's different. I probably don't respect that as much. It's like, get your act together, like be composed, it's professional, versus a mum. It's like, oh yeah, no, you're okay because you've got all this to deal with, you've got kids, and I don't know, that's my perception.
But not everybody knows your background. Not everybody knows what baggage you're coming with at the workplace. So I just take it at face value. And I think growing up in a family where we were allowed to be expressive with our anger, and then after that, it was done.
I think it's really important to find out what the person is angry with, because, I was just thinking about what you were saying about, about people with women of a different race and things like that, right? In certain contexts, once you get angry, people just assume things. People assume, like for me, be like, you must be angry because that was a racist thing. It's like, no, it wasn't a racist thing. It's got nothing to do with race. Yeah. It's just the principle of the thing. That's why I'm angry about. And it's the same thing, for moms. It's like, oh, you just assume, oh, you're angry because you're a mama bear.
You've got so much on your plate.
Yeah. It's a different. We need to realize why people are angry, not just because of.
And you never know what's gone on in people's lives. You never know what's happened to them before they came to work that morning. They could be dealing with an ageing parent or a child that's going through issues.
I would rather you be upfront about your emotions. And I do interact with people who are upfront with their emotions rather than burying it and it festering and then becoming passive aggressive.
I'm a festerer.
Oh yes, so am I.
I can't do it. Then we can't roll, Julie.
No,
we can't roll.
I have to say though that since I've become a mum, I'm usually I don't voice out my anger too much, but since I've been a mum, I found that I've become more assertive when it comes to protecting Elliot.
Oh, for sure.
When it comes to anything that is someone as a threat to him, I'm actually a lot more assertive than I would have been.
Well, maybe when I become a mum, I'll get to learn how to be assertive. I'm looking forward to that. Well, coming up next, our resident nutritionist Trish is here to talk about the importance of healthy bones.
Hi, I'm Gia and I'm here with Trish, our resident dietitian. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Gia. Great to see you again.
It's always nice to see you. And we are going to talk about healthy bones today. And I know that's an important topic. And what key nutrients that we need to know about for healthy bones?
For healthy bones. Well, we've probably all heard about calcium.
Yes.
You need plenty of calcium for strong and healthy teeth and bones. And calcium is really important. But we do need to be aware that there are other nutrients that are as equally important to make sure our bones stay in top shape. So vitamin D is one of those nutrients, as well as protein and fruits and vegetables. So eating a variety of fruits and vegetables seems to be really important for keeping our bones healthy and strong.
Wow, so how does protein, how does that play?
Yeah, we used to think that eating too much protein from animal foods was really bad for our bones. But the research is a little more unclear these days. What we do know that getting enough protein seems to be important for keeping bones strong, particularly as we get older. So it is important to get enough protein in our diet for our bones. But we can think about where we get our protein from, because for other things, like heart disease or just general health overall, it is beneficial to favour plant foods for our protein and less meat particularly. But so foods like legumes, nuts, soy products, but of course dairy products also are really good for protein, as well as some of the other nutrients like calcium for bones.
Because that's what we all know, calcium. And what about, is there other groups, so particular groups that need to worry more about calcium and their bones? Yeah,
women over 50 and men actually over 70 need to get more calcium from their diet. Their recommended daily intakes actually increase.
Wow, men have it made, don't they? 70.
Yeah, so it really is quite important to keep the calcium levels up as we get older. But also just wanted to mention teenagers. Now, while they don't necessarily have particularly higher calcium needs, we know that teenagers aren't having enough calcium in their diet. They're tending to favour sugary drinks and energy drinks over dairy, over milk and soy milk, and definitely aren't getting enough calcium that they need, which is really important as the bones are growing, to keep getting to make them as strong as what they possibly can. Right up until about mid-20s, our bones continue to get stronger. So that is a critical time for getting enough calcium.
And the teenagers that eat more sugary drinks, they are the ones also that aren't having as much fruit and veg and other things in their diet that are going to help.
Most people aren't having enough fruits and veggies.
So it's good to watch out for the teenagers, especially mums with teenagers.
Yes, definitely.
Watch out with what they're eating
and drinking.
Of course.
Or not drinking.
And the vitamin D too, because a lot of people covering up these days, but you need to have more exposure in the sun.
That's right. Vitamin D is critical to actually absorb the calcium into the body. And you can get vitamin D from sunlight, and the Cancer Council actually has some really helpful information to help you work out how much or how little time you actually need to be in the sun to get enough sun to make your enough vitamin D without getting too much sun to worry about the sun cancer risk, of course.
And we shouldn't worry about it, so we should be able to get some sun.
That's right. We definitely do need some sun, but you can get vitamin D from some foods, particularly if it's added to soy milks or cow's milk. But you can even get vitamin D-enriched mushrooms.
Yeah, I heard you say that before. I was like, mushrooms, vitamin D mushrooms, that's awesome.
Yeah. So vitamin D from some foods and from enough sun, but not too much sun.
That's great. Great tips. Thank you. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Please join us again for some more tips from Trish next time. See you then.
Well, we all know you need to eat healthy food to get healthy bones. And for your free nourishing cookbook from Sanitarium, just email us at hello@mumsathetable.com and leave your name and address. Easy. Well, if anyone has ever fed your child junk food without your consent, you may have felt mama bear rage. Of course, these days there are so many allergies and dietary considerations that come into play when determining what your kids can and can't eat. But is it okay to chastise someone for giving your child junk food for no other reason than wanting them to be healthy? Melody, I hear you have a story about this one. Has anyone tried to feed Elliot something?
Several times, several people, and yes, the mama bear rage did come out. It just really frustrates me because the thing is, with Elliot, I'm trying to give him low sugar, low salt, and one of the besides the healthiness, one of the reasons that I'm really afraid of is because I had gestational diabetes, and so I'm really afraid. I want to give him a better start. Like, I don't want him to have that kind of exposure. I want him to be healthier so that he doesn't then end up getting diabetes as he grows older. I don't really know if that's a valid reason.
But you're helping him.
Yeah.
You're helping him.
That's what I'm trying to do. But then, we have people going, oh yeah, it's just a cake. Oh yeah, it's just this, it's just that. And he's never had chocolate before. He's never had ice cream before. And I want to be the first one to give it.
I think it's really important.
That's past now because
I think it's really important that parents get to choose those kinds of things. I don't think, you know, someone else coming in gets to make those choices. And even though
Even if it's a
choices
birthday party?
Yes, because it's your choices are not the parents' choice. Even if your choices are different to the parents' choices, that should be their right.
And I think in this story, this girl who had the piece of cake, like someone gave her chocolate cake, she got sick all night and the parents had to nurse her because the girl hadn't had chocolate cake before.
And my in-laws actually have children who are celiac.
Yeah.
And have some of them have allergies as well. Imagine if that's the more serious case, right? It's like, oh yeah, well, it's just
some cake, no worries.
You'd think people would be more aware of that these days, you know.
They are.
with
Like
celiac.
I'm raising my girls the same, similar to you, as vegetarian because I do believe it's plant-based diet is more healthier for them, and I'm trying to give them a better head start in life because I also was sick and all the health issues within our family. But when we do go to family things, people are just like, oh, and I don't give them juice either. So people are always like, you know, trying to give them juice. And I'm like, they don't drink juice. They don't drink juice. Eden, however, tries to sneak to the cordial stand all the time. But what I'm trying to say is like it's hard as a parent to monitor that when you have family members who look at you like, what's wrong with you?
And of course, then you're the bad one as well. Like your kids hate you because you're not giving them the lollies. Or
That's the trouble. They get a taste for it, and once they've got a taste for it, it's very hard to go back.
That's right. And that's what I think they can do that later in life when they've made the decision, you know what, Mum, I'm going to have meat or whatever the case is, or I want to have this juice.
You can only
but right
control
now, while they're young, I think it's important to let people, let the parents make those decisions.
That's exactly what I'm trying to prevent, is preventing to get them to have the taste for it. And
Because
get
once they
addicted
go
to
there,
it.
they can't.
But I think it is becoming more accepted that you don't feed kids. Like if you're a stranger,
Unless you
just
ask.
because of all the diet, like food allergies and things like that. But I remember when I was little, we had a lolly man at church, and he would just give out lollies every Saturday.
Yes.
And Mum, got Mama Bear rage, you know, went off at him one week because it was the first time I'd ever had lollies. But people would just try and feed me stuff all the time. But I think it's slowly changing as time's going on. Hopefully, anyway.
It needs to.
Yeah. Well, if being healthy is a priority in your family, Gia and Olive have got you covered with this delicious chocolate nut butter recipe.
What are we making, Momo?
I'm making a chocolate nut butter.
I think someone's already got dates in their mouth. Yes, we are making a chocolate nut butter. Okay, so I love Nutella. A lot of kids love Nutella. They want Nutella sandwiches. And now schools are actually banning any chocolate and stuff in the kids' lunchboxes. So I thought I'd come up with a healthy version of a nut butter, chocolate nut butter. So we got dates. Oh, I know who likes the dates. We got dates. It's so easy, this recipe. Dates and water. Oh, yes, you can. Do you want to put the chocolate cacao powder in?
Can I put it?
Yep, chocolate cacao powder. Top.
The rest in.
You want to put the rest in? You want to put this one in? This is the nut butter. Now, I'm using, this one's like a cashew Brazil butter. I wouldn't use peanut butter for this. If you can make your own hazelnut butter, that would be ideal. But anything like cashew or a butter like Brazil nut butter, that's it. And then you just blend it until it's smooth. If you want it... Okay, let's just blend it and then I'll talk about it later. So I've blended that until it's a bit smooth. It might be a little bit gritty, but if you want it to be super smooth, you can actually allow the dates to sit in water for maybe an hour or two, just soaking them. So this is your chocolate deliciousness nut butter. Kids love dipping apple in this. So, and all it is dates and just nut butter, really. Would you like to try some? Okay, here's some for you. Yeah, here you go. Try it and tell me what you think. Tell us what you think. This is it.
Yum.
Is it good? Yummy? Do you want to lick some more? If you want some more delicious, easy recipes, healthy recipes for your family, you can go at mumsattetable.com or Mums at the Table on Facebook, on social media. You'll find us there. Enjoy. Tell us what you think, what you've tried different so that we can hear about it. And we'll see you next time. Bye. Say bye.
Well, living in the 21st century, you probably know someone who has diabetes, whether that's friends, family, or maybe even yourself. The internet is full of opinions, hypotheses, and myths about the condition, but joining us today to shine some light on the subject is endocrinologist Dr. Katherine Benson from Sydney Adventist Hospital. Katherine, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Marielle. Pleasure to be here.
No worries. My first question, so as I mentioned, you know, the internet is full of all kinds of myths and rumours and things, and one of them I think is that diabetes is on the rise and it's just increasing exponentially. Is that true, or are we just kind of more aware of it these days?
No, we're certainly facing an epidemic of diabetes, type 2 diabetes in the 21st century, and this really parallels the obesity epidemic that we've seen in recent decades. So we now estimate that 1 in 12 adults have diabetes.
1 in 12?
And 280 Australians will develop diabetes every day.
Wow.
So it is very common.
That's crazy.
What's the difference between diabetes type 1 and diabetes type 2?
So they're quite distinct disorders. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease. It often affects children or young adults, although it can occur later in life. And in type 1...
So they're born with it, or
They're born with the genetic predisposition, and then something, maybe a viral illness, can trigger it at any stage of life, but it commonly develops in children. It's not a lifestyle disease. It's not due to being overweight or not enough exercise. The immune system attacks the pancreas and destroys the insulin-producing cells. So young people with type 1 diabetes have a total deficiency of insulin and are dependent on insulin for life to keep them alive and healthy. And that's quite different to type 2, which more commonly develops later in life and is related to lifestyle factors such as unhealthy diet, being overweight, being too sedentary.
What about gestational diabetes then? Which one is it?
Gestational diabetes is another category, and that's becoming more common as well. It now affects about 12% of Australian women. And gestational diabetes develops in pregnancy because the placenta produces hormones which lead to insulin resistance. There are a number of risk factors for gestational diabetes, such as being overweight, being older, having a family history of diabetes. Certain ethnicities are more predisposed to gestational diabetes, and women who've had polycystic ovarian syndrome are also at higher risk.
Right.
I'm just curious about this whole gestational diabetes thing. Does it mean then that your baby actually has a predisposition towards type 1 or type 2?
Gestational diabetes does not increase the risk that baby will have type 1 diabetes.
Phew.
Which
Don't
is
need to
good.
worry about the sugar and salt anymore.
But there is an increased risk that the baby will have insulin resistance later in life. So it's important to focus on healthy lifestyle, regular exercise for the children as they grow up to reduce the risk of developing obesity and type 2 diabetes.
Do all pregnant women have to worry about it, or is it something the doctors will check for?
We now have routine screening in Australia with a 2-hour glucose tolerance test, and that's typically performed between 26 and 28 weeks of the pregnancy in all pregnant women, although if a woman is at higher risk, the glucose tolerance test would be performed at 16 weeks initially and then perhaps repeated later on.
Is that a similar test to pre-diabetes? I was a little bit confused. What is pre-diabetes? Because I never heard of that before.
We define pre-diabetes as a fasting glucose level between 6 and 7 millimoles per litre. And type
That's their
2,
sugar reading.
that's on a fasting blood glucose test.
Right.
And type 2 diabetes is defined as a glucose above 7. So it's,
What's the average of like the resting glucose level in the blood?
What should it be?
What should it be? Sorry, yeah.
well, between 4 and 8.
4. Okay.
But
All
in
right.
terms of making a diagnosis, we do it with a fasting glucose test.
Yeah, that makes sense. One rumour I've heard is that feeding your children cow's milk when they're young increases their predisposition to type 1 diabetes. Is that true?
There's a little bit of emerging evidence that cow's milk exposure could be a factor, although research is continuing. There are big studies that are underway. For the time being, best practice is to advocate breastfeeding for at least 6 months wherever possible.
Right, yeah. Also, I hear that is there no cure for diabetes? Or is there?
Yeah, that's a good one. Can you reverse it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so we just need to talk about the two different types. So for type 1 diabetes, which we spoke about as an autoimmune disease, there's currently no cure, and people with type 1 diabetes are dependent on insulin for life to keep them alive. Type 2 diabetes, which is related to lifestyle factors, can potentially be cured with lifestyle change, and there's been some exciting research in that regard published in the last 12 to 18 months.
Just by changing your diet or becoming more active.
That's right.
Yeah.
So in people with pre-diabetes, we know that lifestyle change leading to 4 to 5 kilograms weight loss will reduce the risk of developing diabetes by approximately 60%. So it's good to get in early at that pre-diabetic stage with lifestyle change to try to prevent the development of diabetes. For people with established diabetes, particularly if it's of recent onset, then lifestyle change and in particular weight loss of 5 to 10% can potentially reverse the process.
That's like 4 to 5 kilograms, 5 to 10 kilograms. That's a lot more manageable, I'm sure, than diabetes.
So we're talking fairly modest weight loss can pay
yeah.
huge metabolic dividends.
And is it just weight loss when we talk about lifestyle factors, or is it sort of getting outside more, getting fresh air, you know, eating only vegetables? Is that the primary lifestyle change, just the weight loss, or are there other factors that we should also, or are they kind of hand in hand? I don't know.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think getting weight into the healthy weight range is the most important factor. And there are numerous dietary approaches, as we all know, and that's quite a controversial big topic to discuss. But I think if you can eliminate those sugary drinks, lollies, cakes, biscuits, try to have plenty of vegetables, legumes, those healthy foods in the diet, and keep the treats to an occasional thing, then that's going to be helpful.
If you have diabetes when you're pregnant, what are the chances of getting it later in life?
So we estimate a 50%, so 1 in 2 risk of developing diabetes over the next decade.
That's one of us, Mel.
Oh,
We
wow.
both had gestational diabetes,
But
so one of us.
diet and exercise can
we can
reduce
reverse
risk.
it.
Yes.
So that's type 2 diabetes.
Yes, so if you've had gestational diabetes, there's a 50% chance of developing type 2 diabetes over the next decade, but you can reduce the risk very significantly with lifestyle modification.
Good to know.
I didn't have diabetes when I was pregnant, but my father got type 2 diabetes as an older man in his late 70s. Does that mean I'm more likely to get it at that age as well?
It does increase the risk. So the genetics for type 2 diabetes are quite strong. So family history is something that's relevant.
You know, I read some research about vitamin D. If you're low on vitamin D, there's a link to diabetes. Is that true? Because I actually had to take vitamin D tablets while I was pregnant as well. So, and I had gestational diabetes. So is there a correlation to that, or?
Vitamin D, it's an interesting story. There have been links with a number of autoimmune conditions. The initial link was with vitamin D deficiency and multiple sclerosis, and that led to research into that field. There is some evidence that vitamin D deficiency can worsen insulin resistance. So,
Should you take vitamin D tablets?
if you're getting adequate sun exposure, then there's no need to take vitamin D tablets, but a lot of older Australians are vitamin D deficient. As we get older, our skin's less efficient at producing vitamin D, and supplements may be necessary. As we talked about in previous segments, vitamin D is very important for bone health and calcium absorption, but there may be some added benefits with respect to insulin resistance.
Right.
So if there was one short message, we're almost out of time, that you wanted to communicate to the public about diabetes, what would it be?
That diabetes prevention is really worthwhile, and that lifestyle change leading to modest weight loss of 4 to 5 kilograms can halve your risk of diabetes.
Empowering stuff. Thank you so much for joining us, Katherine. We really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, then perhaps you'd also like to join us in person for our first ever parenting workshop. It's being held in Sydney on March 19th, and our resident psychologist Colette Smart will be speaking. Check out our website for details. We'd love to see you there. Until next time, goodbye and God bless.